Hi there and welcome to my analysis of the Wodd forestry case study for the strategic case study exam, November 2015. And what I'm going to do in this video is take a look through with you the key strategic models. We'll be having a look at Pestel analysis, 5 forces analysis, Ansof's matrix, SWOT analysis and a whole load more, with the idea that we will really get to the heart of the Wodd business. And we'll get to the end, and at the end I'm going to share with you then that based on all that analysis, where should we be taking Wodd forward? And so it's a really in-depth analysis then of the case study from a strategic point of view, using really primarily all of our E3 business strategy models to really get to grips with this business. Really crucial for the exam, this, from the point of view of really understanding the models. And when you understand the models, you can use them in the best way in the exam. And what I'm going to do as part of this video is remind you of some of the models as well. Now, what I'm not going to do is reteach all the models, but I will do a quick reminder. So I hope you don't have to go back and re-revise the models before listening to this video. Okay, so you may be wondering if this is the first time you've come across me. I know many of you will be coming across this video, and it'll be because this is one of our big series of pre-scene analysis videos, and you'll know who I am. If you are coming across me for the first time, because I know some people just get this strategic analysis and nothing else, then I've been teaching final level case study now for some 9 years, coming up to 10 years actually. I've taught final level case study at BPP, First Intuition, Kaplan, Reed Business School, and for the last 5 years here as managing director of Astranti. And so my goal is to bring all of that knowledge and share that knowledge with you in terms of what that means to analyse the case and how you can bring that up on the day of the exam. So the cases overall then, just a kind of little reminder and a summary. It's obviously focused on the forestry industry, and it's an industry of which, you know, very few of you will actually have any specific knowledge. And I think that there's some advantages to that, in the sense everyone's on a level playing field. In the previous case study, the football case study club called Glory, some people knew lots about football and other people nothing at all. Whereas look, most of us are not going to know anything about forestry. Look, I knew nothing about forestry 2 weeks ago. And here I am with 2 weeks later with a massive, huge, well, to some extent, what you can get in 2 weeks, knowledge of the forestry industry and forestry management, and obviously particularly of this Wodd case. And so everyone's going to have to get up to speed. And of course, that's what we're doing, is helping to what I want to do is help to share that with you. So they are a successful forestry manager, and one of the key things that comes out of the case is that they certainly have a lot of strengths, and when we get to the SWOT analysis we'll look at those in detail. But you know, in summary, they've got a very strong asset base, a very good brand, they're attracting new customers in who are attracted to the business and its reputation and its quality, because they seem to do things very well. It is a very cyclical industry, which is very, very dependent mostly on the building industry. So during recessionary times, then it's difficult. And they've gone through difficult times. There's been the recession, obviously, worldwide over recent years, particularly in Europe, where they're based in a country called Marland. But they're coming out of that now, and that's good. But obviously, they want to be protected against that cyclical industry. They don't have too many weaknesses, actually. I've got some issues with their governance, payables days, costs have risen recently. But, you know, as a business overall, it's mostly strengths, which is great. Okay. Actually, sometimes from an exam point of view, it's quite nice to have quite a few weaknesses, because we've got some things we can really bring into our strategy of things to overcome and deal with. But by and large, it's a pretty strong business, actually, this one. So that's good. One thing not to be missed down here at the bottom is this idea of sustainability. It is an absolute key focus throughout the pre-scene. It's a key exam topic, and something I expect will appear in most of the real variants of the exam. So, you know, the whole idea of ethics, corporate social responsibility, looking after the environment is going to be something you need to put extra work into for this case compared to many previous ones. Okay, so look, how are we going to work our way through the business strategy models? This is the approach that we're going to take. Okay, this is the rational model of business strategy. And let me remind you of this model. The whole idea is that setting a strategy is a little bit like going on a journey. You're going to go somewhere, you need to know your end destination, and nowadays you'll put that end destination into a sat-nav, and the sat-nav can then plan the route towards it, but it can only plan the route if it knows where you are now. And so you have this mixture between, like, where do we want to be, where are we going on our journey, and where are we now? And of course the sat-nav uses your GPS location to work out your current position, and of course from those two it can plot the route, the best route to take you there. The same would be in the old days with a manual thing. We would look at where we wanted to be on the map, we would look at where we are now, and we plot the route between the two. And setting a business strategy is exactly the same process, and we have all these various business models to help us to do that effectively. And so all we're going to do is we're going to start off with the future. We're going to have a look at, where is this business going? What's its mission? What does it stand for? And what does it want to achieve? And of course, what businesses need to do is be very clear about their business direction with a very clear focused mission and a set of objectives. So you know what you're planning towards. Just as with our going on a journey, we set a direction in terms of where we want to end up. We need to do that. Otherwise, you could go all over the place and have a completely mishmash of a strategy. Strategy doesn't work, doesn't direct the business. Built into that, it's very important to consider the various different stakeholders. And one thing we find in this industry is there are a wide variety of different stakeholders with a real focus on social responsibility, sustainability, being pretty much just as important to this business as is profitability. You know, many businesses, profits is the key focus. And yeah, we've got to look after the environment, and that's important, all that social responsibility, but we've got to deliver profits. That's most businesses in the real world. Okay, this business I think is different. It's very focused on sustainability, environmental awareness, doing what's right for the environment, and just as important I think to them as is the profits. And in fact, you won't be a profitable forestry company if you're not good at those things, because it is just a necessity in the industry. It's one of the reasons why they're keeping their customers so well, because they do very well at this. Okay, look, next we've got to consider governance and ethics. How do we want to run the business? What are our values? What is our overall approach to the management of that? And so we look at then the stakeholders, the ethical approach, social responsibility. We set our objectives. We know where we want to go. Then we can look backwards to where we've been over recent periods and link up to where we are now. And we look at the pest analysis, or PESTEL as it's sometimes known. Okay, we look at 5 forces analysis. 5 forces looks at the specific industry we're in. PESTEL looks at the wider business environment we're operating in. And we'll look at those models to understand the industry and the business, because we need to take those factors into account. One thing, for instance, that we find is that it's a very cyclical industry. That's the E in the pest. And we need to adapt the business. I think actually you'll find as we go through my strategy that one of my big suggestions is going to be working towards trying to reduce the cyclical nature of the business. Okay, the industry is cyclical, but we can move into other industries and do other things in order to dampen that down. So that's going to be really important to us. Okay, we will do an internal analysis of the business, primarily focused around the internal strengths and weaknesses of the business, which we will sum up in the SWOT. We will have a quick look at products. In this particular case, actually, product life cycle, definitely something I want to look at. It's very hard to do a Boston Consulting Group matrix in this particular industry, because we don't know we can kind of assume growth rates, but we don't know market share rates, because we're not told anything in the case about that. So I actually won't be doing a BCG, but I will be looking at the product life cycle in this particular instance. So we can sum up our opportunities, our threats, and we know where we want to be now. Now we can plot our routes. And we need to decide in doing that which of Porter's generic strategies we'll be taking, cost leadership, differentiation, or focus. We'll have a look at the options for growth in Ansoff's matrix and look at which of those we think is suitable for going ahead with, and consider the methods of growth, things like internal development, acquisitions, anything we want to divest from that, any joint ventures we want to do. We'll set our strategy, and that's where I'm going to end up from this analysis, is my strategy for the way forward. Now, what does that mean for you in your exam? Because, I mean, I can do this, but does it matter for your exam? Well, of course it does. Okay, because those strategies are going to be good, solid, logical strategies to take the business forward. Then when you get into the exam, you'll be faced with an issue. And you can ask yourself, what am I going to recommend from this issue? And if it's consistent with this analysis, it's a good recommendation and you can justify going ahead. Let's say it's the acquisition of an overseas company that do pretty much what we do, similar skills, and we think that that's going to be suitable given the strategy. Okay, we'll talk about that more as we go through, but let's say that was the case. Then you can justify it as how it is consistent with the mission and objectives in the future, how it will help to build on the current strengths that we've got now, and therefore it's suitable given this position, given this analysis. Okay, so that's where this comes in. Now, one of the examiner's key criticisms actually is that people do not justify their recommendations anywhere near well enough. They have a quick one-liner at the end saying, yeah, therefore we'll go ahead. No, what the examiner wants is a page, a typical A4 page of recommendations, 4 or 5 paragraphs explaining why it's so suitable given the business's strategy and its position. Why go ahead or why not go ahead if that's the case? Okay, so hence this model is going to be really, really critical. So we're going to start off then with the future, the mission, the objectives, governance, stakeholder mapping. Okay, so look, a quick reminder then of your E3 mission and so on. Look, as you know, the mission is about what's this organization all about? Why does it exist? Who's it exist for? What are you trying to achieve? And the whole idea with this is that we know the overriding reason why we're in business. And you may well have come across the Campbell's model for the key elements to mission statements. It should be the purpose, why we're in business, who we exist for, what are we going to achieve long term, the strategy, how are we going to compete, what are we doing to be successful, what makes us special compared to the competitors. What do we stand for? What are we about? Okay, quality, value for money, innovation, could be values. That's what that is. And specific policies, codes of conduct. We see actually a code of conduct in this particular case. Okay, what do we stand for? And so Campbell said that businesses should have those 4 elements, and those are the elements. And what we need to do is review what we've got in the case study against those elements to see whether it's a good mission or not, and we'll do that. Okay. So what is their mission then? Well, Wodd's mission is to be the world leader in sustainable forestry management. So some real key elements in here. Actually, let's not start with world leader. Let's start over here. Let's start with forestry management. That's what they do. They manage forests. That's their speciality. Now, let's say, for instance, there's a project that's suggested, and that project is in maybe a related but different industry. Maybe it's paper production. Okay, and you are trying to decide whether to go ahead. Now, what you can do is you can take it back to this mission statement. Is paper production and manufacture actually forestry management? The company have made a decision. We're forestry managers. We're managing forests. We're not manufacturing paper. Now, the company could change their mission. They could refocus that mission. Of course they could if they felt that was right strategically. But typically that's not the purpose of missions. Missions are there to guide business decisions, and sticking and staying within forestry management is where they've made the decision in the past. And certainly moving outside that is going to be a risk. Paper would be more of a risk, and they'd have to go and change their mission to do that. And is that really what they want to do? Look, we don't know, but we can bring this up. You can justify your decisions based on the points that are here. This is where so many people go wrong. I see lots and lots of just very generic solutions. Okay, they give all the advantages and disadvantages of paper and expanding into the paper industry, but they don't lead it back to, is it consistent with the mission? Is it going to lead through to this strategy? Is it consistent with these kind of objectives we've got on these long-term strategy? Because if it is, yes, go ahead. If it's not, why are you doing it? The examiner really wants you to use the pre-scene. Not just read it through and then just go into the exam and ignore it with a bit of background knowledge, but use it. You see that time and time again in the examiner's post-exam reviews. Okay, so they want it to be sustainable is the next element. I've talked a little bit about sustainability. Look, it's really crucial. They've got a really tough target for themselves here. The world leader. It's hard to know whether, do they mean just the best at it? Or do they mean biggest revenues, or a mixture of both? It's not really clear from that point of view, but certainly they want to be very good and probably pretty big. Okay, ask yourself the question, is this next strategy going to help them? I said earlier, maybe there's a strategy of overseas expansion, buying out a similar type of company in another part of the world. Well, actually, world leader, yes, so that's consistent with international expansion. So you can, again, it's consistent with the mission. Okay, so the long-term strategy then is to get returns for investors, absolutely. Be a preferred supplier. So let's talking about customers. Customers really like their wood-based products to a broad customer base. That we know they're doing very well at that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Good branding, good retention of customers. Okay, and key to them is good environmental and social conduct. So we're getting the sustainability come in there again. Okay, develop new large-scale projects. This is something that's going to be critical. We need to talk about this in terms of the cyclical nature of the industry and how this can help to overcome that. So we'll talk about that as well. And they've specifically talked about sustainability of forests as well. So look, what we can see there then is environment, sustainability, really key. Profitability, customer relationships, key. Finally, new projects, large-scale projects. I would suggest outside of their traditional timber, but more on the consulting and services that we know they've been growing in their business, is going to be a strong way forward. So that's their strategy. What I'll do when I get to the end of this is give you my strategy for them. I mean, to be honest, looking at this now, it looks pretty good given our position, but I've got a few extra things and a few changes that I want to guide and to refocus the business. If I was running the business, you know. Please then, like I've already said this, but I just want to reiterate it, do refer back to these objectives during the exam to justify going ahead or not going ahead with projects. Okay, big mistake lots of people make. Now, we've also got code of conduct, which really are the values. If we just assume this is kind of part of the mission because we've been given this as a whole, this code of conduct, these values are things that the organisation wants to do and wants to continue to do in the future. It's the way they're going to behave. Looking after stakeholders, respect for the different stakeholders, professional behaviour, operating with integrity, objectivity. In fact, notice integrity, objectivity, professional behaviours. 3 key elements of, anyone? Do you remember 3 key elements of CIMA's ethical code of conduct? Those are 3 headings in the ethical code of conduct. Suggesting ethics is really critical to this business, but also critical to the examiner. After all, why is the examiner written a section in this with 3 specific words out of the CIMA's code of conduct? Well, because the examiner's thinking of testing that. Okay, almost guaranteed. Continue to learn and develop skills, knowledge, communication with stakeholders. Again, stakeholders comes in on a regular basis, looking after the environment. Look, it's a lot of things that we would expect given the mission statement, but they've set it down there. And again, these clear values, you can use these to judge new opportunities. Okay. I'm just coming to this video on the back of having recorded my top 10 issues video. And when I got to my top issue, what I actually did was I picked up a whole range of points out the pre-scene and said, look, if you get an issue on this topic, okay, I'm not going to tell you the topic here, but if you get an issue on this topic, you could use this from the objectives, this from the code of conduct. You can use this from the FCSM's principles, okay? And so you use the pre-scene to justify your answers. Okay, look, it's lovely that they've got a clear set of values, very clear. That helps us in the exam to make decisions about whether they're abiding by those or not, as the case may be. Now, what I also promised that we would do is we would review the mission statement, and I'm going to include in that the code of conduct and the objectives, okay, because they all link in, against Campbell's key elements. And so Do we know why the organisation exists? Well, for me, it's pretty clear here. It's about shareholders and about sustainability. Actually, potentially for customers as well. That was in the objectives too. But to me, those are the two big goals. That they have to balance against each other, of course, because they're not always consistent. For whom do they exist? Well, it's investors, society generally, that's sustainability. Perhaps customers as well. Maybe we could add on in that too. Okay. What do they hope to achieve in the long term? Well, they need to be the leading forestry management worldwide. Pretty clear. I would give a big tick to the purpose. Now, from a strategy point of view, how will they compete? Well, we did have some elements of kind of objectives in the long-term strategy. I'm not sure for me it's absolutely clear what their absolute basis of success is. I'd quite like to see something in here sort of related to portrait generic strategies. Are we really good quality? Are we got the best service of anyone in the industry? Perhaps we got the best marketing, or we've got the best brand, or there's none of that in there. So it's a little bit unclear about what makes them special. Okay. But we know the range of businesses because it is forestry management. So watch out for that, as I said earlier. So strategy, okay, but could be a little bit better. Absolutely clear values in the code of conduct and clear policies in the code of conduct. They're really quite similar, to be honest with you, those two, in the sense of the values tell people the way to behave. Normally policies are a little bit more detailed, but I think the code of conduct here does give enough guidance to be called a specific policy. Okay. So overall then, a good mission statement, values, objectives, excellent. Perhaps they could make it a little bit clearer how they're better than competitors and how they'll be successful long term. How are they going to achieve that world leader position? It's not quite clear from what they've got so far. Okay. Big message though, it's unlikely you'll be asked to analyse their mission statement in the exam. That's not the most common question. More commonly, you're going to be using this to justify your answers on the day of the exam as being consistent with the code of conduct, the mission, the values. And if you're listening to the sample that's on the Astranti website or that's on YouTube, this is where the sample ends. I hope you found that introduction to the mission statement a good starting point to, and there's been some nice thoughts in there, also a bit of an introduction to the company as well. This video goes on for another hour and a quarter, and of course what I do in that time is I go through a lot of the main models, pest analysis or PESTEL, we go through 5 forces, we go through governance, we go through ANSOS matrix, we go through Mendelow's matrix, which is a very important one, and I give you my final strategy as well. So my hope is that you can see the value in carrying on and watching the rest of the video, and you'll find that one useful to you. Of course, if you decide not to do that, then my advice to you now is to go away and do all those models for yourself, because they're very, very important that you go in with a real knowledge of the business strategy models so you can use them in the exam, and also so you can define your own strategy. How would you take this business forward? So, if you're not going to get my view, then please do go through and do your own analysis, because that's going to really help you. You're supposed to go into the exam on the day of the exam really knowing this business. Okay. You work in it, after all. That's the role you're playing. You know this business just like any business that you're working in. That's the idea. So knowing their strategy, given your reporting to the board, is really crucial. So please do go ahead and do that. Of course, this video series is part of a big video series where I've gone through all of the case line by line, really, paragraph by paragraph. I've done my top 10 issues list, and actually you'll see sample videos for the pre-scene analysis. You'll see a sample for the top 10 issues list as well. So again, if you're just watching the sample, then lots of great stuff available just in those free samples, and hopefully you'll see the value in going on buying the full series as well. Certainly we get a lot of fantastic feedback on it, and we just literally the exam results were yesterday, and we got person after person saying how useful they'd found the analysis on the day of the exam, which is always, ultimately that's why we do it, is to help people to pass. So hopefully they will help you pass. Okay, so visit the Astranti website, astranti.com, look on strategic case study, and then you'll find the details of all of our products and all of our videos and all of our analysis of the case on there. Of course, this is all part of this. It's all part of our full course as well. So if you want the full course where we have lots of mock exams, crucial for you to pass, as well as course videos, live masterclasses. We have 4 mocks as well, where you'll get very, very detailed focused feedback from our marking team on how to go about passing the exam. Then please join the whole course, which certainly people do find that it's our most complete package, and people that take it do find it really good. And we do have pass guarantee, so should you complete the whole course, which is really important that you do if you're thinking of passing, and then you fail, you get the whole course again for no extra charge. So that's a real bonus on there too. And also you can try the course out for 14 days for a complete sort of no obligation, as it were. You can have your money back if you don't like what you see in that time. So hopefully it's there's the opportunity to try it out, see if you like it. So yeah, have a look at the course as well. Okay, whatever you do decide to do and however you decide to study, I do wish you the best of luck in your exam.